Everyday people, extraordinary lives, journey through their stories, transform your mind. They're building enterprises and community, making a way for each other. That's the remedy. That's the remedy.
What if your next contract isn't just revenue, but a pathway to jobs, stability, and legacy? Today, we're exploring the intersection of money mindset and government contracting, where the beliefs you hold about wealth, readiness, and competition shape not just what you win, but how you build and who you bring with you. We're asking, what does it mean to be funding ready, and how do we network for collective wealth instead of scarcity-driven competition? This is a conversation about preparation, partnership, and the kind of impact that lasts. So, grab your coffee, tea, your favorite beverage, and let's get into it. Welcome to the WEBB Remedy Podcast. I'm Rinnie, Executive Director of WEBB Squared, your podcast host and producer. And today I'm with my co-host, Stephanie Terry.
Hi, everyone. How you doing, Rinnie?
I'm doing pretty good, Steph. How are you?
I'm doing well.
What have you been up to these days?
Oh, working and thinking and writing and sleeping.
Well, today we are just continuing our money mindset conversations. This is the fourth episode of 8, where we've been exploring how the beliefs we hold about money shape the decisions we make and how those decisions create the outcomes we experience. Today, we're examining money mindsets and how they intersect with government contracting, community building, and the kind of legacy and impact that lasts beyond a single contract. Stephanie, when you hear money mindset, what do you think most entrepreneurs miss?
I think most entrepreneurs miss that how they think about money, how they handle money, how they approach money opportunities are so often informed by the environments that we were raised in. And I think that tends to get lost, especially when we become adults and think that, we're making just conscious decisions all the time. But a lot of times, especially about money, those decisions and the ways that we think and approach money are informed they are informed by what we saw when we were growing up. That's what I think, but we're going to talk more deeply on this subject, and I am so excited and happy and honored to introduce today's guest, Jessica Richey. Jessica is an award-winning entrepreneur and government contracting expert. She is the founder and CEO of Spotless Pros Powerwashing and chief strategist at Richey Workforce Development. She secured multiple government contracts and competitive grants, reinvested state grants into her companies, and now she helps small businesses access certifications, funding, and strategies for sustainable growth. Jessica is currently a business instructor at Wake Tech. Go, Jessica! And is a member of WEBB's board of directors. We are so happy that you're here, Jessica. So let's all welcome her and let's jump in. So the first thing that we want to learn is just share more about the work that you do today.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, thank you so much for this invitation. And like you said, you're happy that I'm a part of the board. I'm happy to be a part of the board in the work and the movement that is taking place. And to answer your question about the work that I do, let me tell you, I'm a servant leader. That's the best way to say it. Truly, I'm a servant leader. The work that I do, I serve as CEO and founder of Spotless Pros Powerwashing with my husband. And then I'm chief strategist at Richey Workforce Development. And all that in a nutshell is honestly serving. And that has led us to, when we talk about power washing, to be able to be that community voice, which led me to be able to teach entrepreneurs in the work that I do. So that's a broad overview, but it's to help and create that change. And I'm sure we'll dig further.
Well, we're so glad to have you with us today, Jessica. In our last episode, we explored just how much our money mindsets are shaped, like Stephanie was talking about, by the messages we heard growing up, the patterns we saw around money in our families and our communities, and the environments that form our earliest beliefs about wealth, scarcity, and abundance, and what's possible. So today we're tapping into your expertise, examining how your money mindset show up in your business, how it influenced you and the work you do with entrepreneurs, the partnerships you build, the risks you take, and the legacy that you're creating. So let's jump in. Jessica, what is scarcity thinking, and where does that show up in your own business and your life around the work you do?
So to answer your question, scarcity thinking is first and foremost to me your limiting beliefs that you have about yourself around mindset, around money, right? So for me, as I identified that, and when we talk about even power washing to make it personal in a male-dominated industry, right? I had to overcome those that mindset that yeah, it may be dominated by males, but how do I enter into this and grow further beyond what my own limiting beliefs are that I'm holding myself back from. And so when I think about that and I go deeper, I did that with research. One thing about research and data, I always say data does not lie. The numbers tell you the truth. And so to me, I've seen it come up in areas when I began on this journey in government contracting in 2023, when we sat down as an organization and we asked, how do we want to grow? We knew it was through government contracting, but in doing my research, I saw who the players were, who was in this industry, and so for me, I became a student. How do I overcome that self-limiting mindset that I had, like that limiting belief that I had? Like, how do I do that? And so I had to challenge myself and put myself in environments that make me feel uncomfortable so that I can grow. And I continue to do that to help overcome that limiting belief to be able to achieve some of the successes we have today.
That's awesome. So what you're saying is like challenging yourself and using data to help look at yourself, help you overcome any limiting beliefs that you had.
Yeah, so to even go deeper in that, to make it real practical, the first thing I had to do, right, we set out a goal. But even in
Hmm.
that goal, when we talk about mindset, when we talk about limits and beliefs, I'm like, well, how are we going to accomplish this goal? How are we going to get into government contracting? I honestly had someone, I was seeking out a mentor at that time. That's why I tell people get with a coach in our community that's going to push you and encourage you. And so I had a particular person at the time who said, you know, Jessica, it's going to take you 10 years before you can win a government contract. Like who? Wait a minute. I'm going to
Hmm.
do the work. I just need to know what it is that I need to do it, right? So I had to push myself further beyond that. When I say the research, I had to have a roadmap, what I call my government contractor plate, right? Because
Hmm.
government contracting is a big industry, but how can I get my piece of the pie? I don't want
Hmm.
everybody's piece. I believe that we all can have a piece of the pie. I just want my piece of the pie. And so in doing that, I broke it down into smaller increments. Like, okay, all right, what are the three cities I want to show up in? And how do I do that? So when I identified, and I'll tell you at the time, at City of Fayetteville, I looked at the data of the money that they were spending with women-owned businesses. I got certified, right? I looked at the city of Charlotte, low and whole, when we started out trying to get into the industry. Now, this year, because of the work that we've done, the contracts we won there, we were nominated as a 2026 Crown of Enterprise City of Charlotte nominee. And I also
Wow.
focused on the city of Durham. Because
Hmm.
I saw in my research, what I did was I created a government capture report. I saw that there was a company locally right here to me that was making $2.3 million. Data doesn't lie. If they're making it and they were not even rooted here, they were outside doing business here. I learned the initiatives of my governor, the initiatives of my state was to give back locally. Now I can play on an even playing field.
That makes so much sense because I remember a moment when I was working when Rinnie and I were co-founding WEBB Squared, and I remember Rinnie when we had the conversation about approaching the county to be
Hmm.
funding partners, and I had a mindset. I had to, well, let me say it this way. I had to move my mindset from funding as like mission charity to like, no, this is funding as economic investment. Like, this is investment because it's a whole different mindset when you think about fundraising from an investment standpoint versus like a mission driven, and there's nothing wrong with charity mindset. It's just you talk about it differently, you think about it differently, and you partner differently. So I can remember um, that shift. But we really want to give you all that are listening some real meat, especially if you're wanting to connect to government contracting. So, because just like, I shared an example and Jessica shared an example, like you understanding your mindset around that before you go into the process can really expose some of the mindset that you may not be familiar with. Jessica, what's the biggest mindset hurdle you have seen when entrepreneurs approach government opportunities?
So the biggest mindset hurdle I would say is they count themselves out even before they apply for the opportunity.
Mm.
So when they start looking at contracts, they start hearing about opportunities, you see the light bulb moment, but they tell themselves no before ever submitting an opportunity, before ever submitting a contract, before responding to a RFP, a request, or a proposal for information. They start telling themselves no. And so my thing is, if you have the skills, you have what it takes to be successful in this industry, give yourself the chance. Let someone, if they decide no, that's different, right? And in this industry, you're gonna see no's, right? I can't tell you how many times we've had a no before we ever encountered a yes. We get that so many more times, but a lot of times people share, they hear the wins, but I'm like, it's the no's, it's the consistency, it's continuing to build in spite of the no's and creating that mindset that says showing like real world experiences, lived experiences. I think that's what sets my experience is what sets me apart in the classroom. Like I love the light bulb moment, even with my students, they were like, oh my goodness, I got it now. Like I see it, I feel it. Like you can have the opportunities that you desire, the dream that you desire, the goal that you desire, but you got to lay that out. But at the same time, what limiting beliefs do you have that are stopping you in your mindset so we can address those and deal with those so that you can get the outcome that you desire?
Jessica, how do you help somebody move from that I'm not ready to I can be ready stage? What do you have some practical tips or anything that's worked for you?
Absolutely. I show what's possible again by that real world experience. I have something I love. I always say you got to go to the foundation, right? What does that foundation look like? You got to build a strong foundation. And I have what I call the Ignite State and Local Boot Camp. What that does is it ignites you, right? It shows you the opportunities that are possible. A lot of times people have not been exposed to what's possible. They hear about it or they don't know where to look. Like I'm getting ready to teach a course specifically for this one community, and I always get data. I ask the questions beforehand, and I was looking earlier at the attendees that are enrolling. Like by the numbers, it shows you that there's a need for funding. I go back to I think about how many businesses, right, are opening, but then there are still some closing, right? So what's going to set you apart so that you can sustain your business model? So we look at the opportunities. Yeah, you've got government, you've got the federal level, you got the state level, and you got local. But I'm a state and local girl. Like I love state and local opportunities that are in your own backyard for funding that have changed my life. It makes me think, I'll never forget in 2023 when I invested in coaching in the next level. I had to look at, who was investing in this. I found out about opportunities, but at the same time, I didn't know how to access those opportunities. So when I invested in community, not doing it by myself, I learned, hey, wait a minute, these opportunities are available. And at a time when I had got laid off and I thought I was going to pay for training one way, another door opened. The state paid, and I'm telling you, like thousands for us to be able to invest in training and development, and they continue to pay. A lot of my grant funders, I learned something, like I've had them 3 years in a row, and that doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it's just developing that relationship, and it's staying consistent and letting people know. I found a lot of times in this work, people count themselves out because they don't have a website done yet. They don't have, like, they're waiting for an opportunity where somebody can be using the gifts that they have and knowing that there are resources available to help you get that developed. But at the same time, there's grant funding available based off the county you live in, based off where you reside. And so I help them tap into those opportunities, and I share those lived experiences that have changed my life to be able to show them that it's possible for them as well.
That's amazing. I hear a lot in what you're saying, on how to get your mindset ready. And when you start moving from mindset into like the next question that I want to ask you, can you talk a little bit more about what readiness means, the system and the compliance and pricing for and documentation for federal contract opportunities?
Absolutely. My mind was just going as you were talking. But I definitely want to speak to the first point you said about systems. Whew. This is where I am. And I think this is what messes like a lot of people up because we don't have SOPs, standard operating procedures in place. And then a lot of times we make it harder than it has to be. I had to learn because that was one of the things, like my business plan was holding me back. I'm the type of person, I don't like to get stuck. How do I seek out resources to help me? All right, if that resource didn't work, a lot of people give up. No, you got to keep going. So I had to go to the next resource to help me get that done. I started seeking out state programs that taught me, okay, a lean canvas, looking at the different components of your business. And not just that, when you talk about systems, I'm in a place where, in capacity, I heard that word.
Yep.
I'm in a place where I'm really documenting and I'm allowing Jessica to get out of the way so that these processes can move efficiently without my husband and I in the day-to-day operations.
Mm-hmm.
And so behind the scenes, what that looks like is it is the systems, the automation, right? A lot of people are running from AI when AI has agents that can help you, but you have to invest, yes, but some of it you can invest at a reasonable price, right? But you just got to know those resources and put back to those communities that make me get uncomfortable. And I'm also learning at the same time, like for me, for example, I've had the opportunity, I teach, and so I know already in August that my capacity is going to be limited. I have to shift, right? The economy is changing. We can't stay the same. We have to adapt and shift. And how do we do that? I know, for a prime example, where I had 150 students, that's going to double for me in August. How do I keep my business going so that when I walk in that classroom, all focus is in that classroom? It's not on the daily operations, but guess what? We still got warm pipelines. We still have people that are working in the background. We still have agents that are doing the process. So for the next 2 weeks, what does that mean? Jessica is locking in, and I'm going all in our automation and our systems on the back end. And then after that, I give myself time in July and August to test it and allow my virtual assistants to run that without me to make sure they're doing that effectively. So when August comes around, it's go time. We're doing those things. And then you talked about compliance. Compliance is such a huge part of government contracting.
Mm.
I believe the more niche specific you are, the more opportunities you have available. I can't tell you how many times we get opportunities just because we're niche specific, meaning we could do cleaning, and that's how we started. Go in and clean facilities. We could do all that when it comes to government contracting, but we are niche specific, meaning people call us in because they're like, y'all focus on power washing. We want window cleaning. They call us because that's what we're going to do. There's actually an opportunity open right now. And every time an opportunity opens in the state of North Carolina for power washing, I at least get 3 people or more who are like, did you see this from the city of Raleigh? Or did you see this opportunity that's available? And then also keeping in mind that when you're working with the government, you got a partner. A lot of people want it all to themselves, but if something was to happen to you, do you have processes in place where things can still go on, that they can still get the documentation and the information that they need? And so when you talked about prices, that's a good one. Prices is, you got to know your price and your numbers. That's the hardest component. That's why you got to track everything and track it in a way that you can quickly look at it and you know it, that you can give an account for it, right? If you got a good old spreadsheet, if you got QuickBooks, don't do automatically what somebody else is doing that doesn't work for you, because you want to be able to explain that. I can't tell you in how many rooms I go into. A lot of times, yes, I submit that contract, but then I got to go in and I talk about it in an interview. And so you want to be able to explain it in an interview about what you do, the systems that you use, so that they can say, okay, all right, we feel, good about having you come in and do this work because you've got your processes documented. If we need something, how do you respond? Does it
Yeah.
take you 48 hours? Does it take you, when you think about just to be able to respond to them, like some of them knowing the turnaround time, maybe not 48 hours, but if you think about 2 weeks to respond to an email they sent you and you're doing a contract, like they look at things like that. So when we talk about systems, processes, prices, you've got to do them in a way, just make sure that you have that information documented so that you can grow and you can scale.
Yeah. That's powerful. I just want to say that what you said about, automation and capacity is huge. It's just really if that's what resonated with me. Like, how do you automate so you can have more capacity? Thank you for that.
Well, thanks for sharing all that, Jessica. I'm just really curious, when you're coaching others, are there any, I guess, for lack of a better word, like mistakes that you made early on that now you can coach people to avoid?
So when I think about mistakes, I would say things that I do differently. A lot of times we're always looking for the next opportunity and we're not celebrating the wins. I'm guilty of this. I don't.
Mhm.
I have to constantly stop. And a lot of times that's why I have people around. They're like, wait a minute. No, no, no. You've done a million things. Like, I need you to celebrate the wins and then we'll move forward to the next. And then sometimes I'm forced to write it down. I'm like, wow, we did all this. Some people don't do that in like a year, you know what I'm saying? But if it was easy, everybody would be doing that. And so I'm constantly reminding myself and my clients of that. Like, you've got to implement. I heard somebody say something that was so key recently. And they said, when their business slows down, they speed up. Speed up, though, in a way that has boundaries, right? Speed up. When I say speed up, what I mean is a lot of times we'll start to grow and we see one opportunity take off. Like we mentioned, government contracting and working with the city and working with your state, and they let that go. I like to ask people, how did you win that opportunity? Go all in deeper. Like, we just finished today one of our largest window contracts. And it's such a huge story because it's actually the same place I worked at 5 years ago. And it speaks volumes in RTP to be able to go back there, my team there, and to see them execute at a building where I was working every day in human resources. And now I'm working in human resources for myself, right? And so that spoke volumes. But when we talk about mistakes, I would say don't let up off of the gas, meaning what worked for you, do that. What worked for you, and then serving. I'll talk about serving real quick. But when I talk about what worked for you, one of the biggest things I always advise people to do is register locally. You can get certified in your state, right? When we talk about, for example, North Carolina being a hub registered vendor, I honestly had an opportunity, came this morning on the workforce development side because we are registered as a hub vendor and they needed someone to come and step in and help with that particular opportunity. And so not just that, but when you talk about local, like your local schools with the services you offer, there are portals for that. But I also said you got to watch your email, right? Because you're going to start to get a lot of notifications in your inbox. And so you don't want to overwhelm yourself. And so when you think about that, think about what opportunities can you go deeper. I'll never forget, even in the beginning, registering as a PNC vendor, local supplier, like being at those matchmaking events where they have employers come in, made the world of difference. So once you begin to see success from one opportunity, go deeper, go
Mhm.
deeper.
Well, thank you, Jessica. We appreciate all of that advice. But we're going to take a quick break and we're going to hear from our podcast sponsor for this Money Mindset series, PNC Bank. But before we do, Jessica, give us your top 3 readiness moves before pursuing contracts or grants.
Top 3 readiness moves. Number one, again, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. Like, don't count yourself out, right? I'm a firm believer, plant so many seeds that you do not keep count. A lot of times we apply for one opportunity and we let it sit. We apply for 2 more later and we let it sit. But be consistent. If you're applying, let's say you do it and you apply for 3 a week, if you take 15 minutes, because I know capacity, sometimes I hear that a lot of times, like I don't have the capacity, but make sure that you're consistent in whatever you do. If it's 15 minutes a week and you're consistent to that in 30 days, you can see the needle move, right? And then would be remove excuses. Remove excuses. Like a lot of times we'll create an excuse, meaning, oh, I just don't have time. But if you go to that data on your phone and you look at what you were looking at and what you scroll, I'll tell you, I'm even disciplined to the point I will mute, because your phone has features. I'll mute social media a lot of times. And I have certain times I go on social media, but other than that, just to prevent me from scrolling, I lock in. And so I don't have that distraction going off, right? And then last but not least would be continue to challenge yourself. Put yourself in environments that challenge you to do more, that you're not complacent. Like it's always, I explain it like you're belly leaping, like you get excited about it in rooms where you can grow, where other people are mentioning your name even when you're not present.
Well, now let's take a break and hear from our sponsor.
As a bank, PNC prides itself on being boring. But the truth is, they couldn't be more excited to serve the dynamic Triangle community. They've quietly toiled away to deliver brilliant results for their equally brilliant clients. And they have dedicated PNC teams throughout the local area, all ready to do the boring work to help you unlock your own brilliance. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring.
PNC Bank, National Association, member FDIC.
Well, welcome back, everyone. This has been a rich, of course, because we're talking to Jessica Richey. It has been a really rich conversation as I am learning a lot. So thank you for these nuggets of wisdom. But we're going to start to talk about something that's at the heart of what the mission of WEBB Squared is about, and about the work that you do, building communities and networks of support. A lot of us, and I remember Rinnie and I, we had lots of conversations about how we move from business, like business only being like in a competitive environment versus a cooperative environment, right? Like, yeah, I mean, we may be selling the same things, but there's so many people and there's so much, opportunity that we don't have to be competitive about every little thing. Because, I believe that, I believe in abundance and that we live in an abundant world and an abundant universe. But, the status quo is that there's only so much to go around, and that if someone wins something, then that's one less opportunity for you. But what if we flip that? And what if we begin to build cooperative systems, networks and ecosystems where we're not just competing, but we're collaborating, we're referring, partnering, and lifting each other up. When it comes to entrepreneurs networking, how can they network without it feeling transactional? How can they begin to work together and collaborate, especially when you're talking about government contract?
Yeah, I believe that first of all, to make it feel natural, you got to do more of it, right? You can't go one time and expect that to just ease the nerves in a sense, right? Because you got introverts and you got and people don't believe it, but I'm like, I'm an introvert. When I come out of networking events, I want to go somewhere and relax. Like I'm just like, where is the chair? But you have to do it more and build what I call a family. Like the places that I go are that type of environment. I don't look at it from transaction. First of all, the mindset shift. Like I'm not going in it as what can you do for me? I'm going in it to find out more about you. I naturally love to connect people. So if I don't have a resource for you, guess what? I have a wealth of resources that may be a better fit to service you, to be able to help you grow to that next level. And not just that, but remembering that people are humans. Like they love just the ordinary, just that conversation, someone to get out of the day to day. And a lot of times they just want to talk. They want to express themselves and be able to look at, okay, what do I have that I can relate to be able to talk to them so that it's effective in our communication as well. So just remembering it's not only about you, it's about that person as well. And just let it flow. don't go in automatically with an agenda. Yeah, you may have look at some different conversation starters, but at the end of the day, I would say let it flow, let it be natural. If you're going to a networking event and you have a goal and you say, okay, there are 3 people I know I want to meet with, even with that, you can meet them, and the communication is still effective by letting it flow and finding out what they need and making sure that you can be an asset to them as well.
Jessica, what partnerships have you personally had that helped you scale?
I think a lot of my partnerships created the visibility piece for us as well. And so when we talk about partnerships, I cannot dare not say WEBB Squared, because this has been a huge part of the visibility. The work that you all do speaks for itself. And I'll tell you, even just being partnered here, and I just shared a post about just being a part of the board, and someone reached out personally, like, oh my goodness, is that what they do? Or I'll get people that reach out and I'm like, yes, and this is who you need to contact, and this is what they do. And so I think that that's been a huge part. I also partner with different communities in the government contracting space. My coach, my community there, the GovCon space, Purifying has been a huge part of that growth when it comes to visibility. The opportunities that are in the room, they're already connected with other entrepreneurs, and they're giving me the chance to be able to oversee the entire construction division. I don't take that lightly. And being able to mentor them every month, like that was huge. I don't take that lightly at all, to be able to host different sessions and to be able to host community events. And then I am a huge advocate of the Women's Business Center. I think that that has definitely been a huge part of our growth. I tell you, when you find communities like that and you lock in, those are the places that you're going to see the biggest difference. Sometimes, a lot of times people say, yeah, it's hard to say no, but I myself, I'm careful about when I give a yes, because when I give a yes, I'm all in. So if those organizations I named are having something and I'm available, I'm putting it on my calendar because I show up with my yes. I'm committed to my yes. And I understand, I don't take it lightly to be in communities. Like I talked about, even my government contracting community, for example, I'm doing a workshop, I'm doing a training just for that community. I launched that yesterday. As soon as I launched that, over like 100 entrepreneurs started signing up because they refer other people, like they come. And so for me, it's not just having people, but having people that can see the change, to know I don't just want a government contract, but I want to win it. And these are the steps to help you do it.
That's really wonderful. And I love that you said, when you say a yes, you're fully committed. I remember when Rinnie and I were building Web, we had to really think about the values that matter to us when we were partnering, because what Web Kids does is too big, like it's so much that we had to partner with people. Like there's no way, and organizations, that we could address all the things. So the things that we decided were important were, there may be other business service provider organizations, and they may do different things. They may have a different culture, different skill sets, different things that they focus on. But what we aligned around was values. Is there like a value or something that you look for when you're considering partnering with an organization or a business?
The first thing that comes to mind is action-oriented results.
Mm.
We don't just talk about that. I love how you talked about how you have the purpose, right? It's one thing to say it on a website, but then show it in person, or show it in communication, and show it in how you lead. And so to me, if your results speak for themselves, I am a huge advocate of that. Like I tell people, like even before, sometimes, some communities do have an obligation or a fee that's tied to it, but are you seeing results when you go? Are you winning before even going and locking in? Prime example, I remember even when I was considering Procurify, I use that as an example, they had a podcast at the time, and I was listening to the podcast. I was listening to the different things that they had, but I was winning from the podcast. Same thing with the GovCon community. I was winning from the GovCon community content that they had online. And if I can win from a place of I'm giving you my time and I'm implementing, if you put me in that environment, I know I'll see results.
How do you define success now with your work as a coach and your business?
So I just had to be honest when you asked me that question.
That's fine.
I love it, but to be honest with you, to me, the way success is defined is doing it God's way. For me, I'm rooted and I'm grounded in that. And I ask the question, even as a coach, what are you rooted and what are you grounded in? Because that's what keeps me rooted. That's what keeps me grounded. Because even as an entrepreneur, not every day is peaches and cream. And so, what do we put in place so that we can continue to show up for our clients? We can continue to show up for ourselves. I am huge at building a business around our family, building a business. I'm a soccer mom by heart, right? And soccer season is gearing up. So I can't be tied down doing one particular thing that somebody else could be doing for me and moving the needle forward so that I can be enjoying the reason that I built this business for. And so I think that to me, that is success when I'm building it God's way and I'm building it around my family that gives me the flexibility to be able to do and create the community impact that we love to create to be able to give back to our community as well.
Jessica, this has been such a really informative and nourishing and just wise conversation with you sharing how you approach your business, how you approach success, how you approach mindset. But now we're going to go to our lightning round. This is fun. We have 4 questions we're going to ask you, Jessica. I will ask the first 2. Rinnie, you ask the next 2?
Okay, sounds like a
Okay.
plan.
Okay. First question, one money belief to release. Go.
I say stop counting yourself out before even applying for the opportunity. Going back to that. Yeah.
Okay. One new belief to adopt. Go.
It belongs to you.
Oh,
The money belongs to you. The opportunities belong to you.
okay.
One community building action listeners can take this week.
Invest in yourself. Keep investing in yourself. A podcast, training, whatever it is, invest in yourself.
And last, but the most important question of all, where can people connect with you and learn more about how you can help?
Yeah, so I'll make sure you have my LinkedIn. I hang out on LinkedIn, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn. But all things Instagram and Facebook is Richey Workforce Inspires, and my website Richey Workforce Inspires as well.
Fantastic. I will be sure to add that into the show notes as well. Well, I believe if it's okay with you all, that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us. Thank you, Stephanie. I'm sad that I don't work with you as much anymore. I don't get to see you on a regular basis, but all is good. But Stephanie, you're here, so why don't you close us out?
All right. I miss you too, Rinnie. I miss you, Jessica. So we're going to close us out by saying what we always say at the end of our podcast. Our evolution begins with dialogue.
Jessica shows us that government contracting isn't just about winning bids. It's about building capacity, shifting mindset, and creating pathways for others to follow. Whether you're exploring your first contract, building your network, or redefining what success looks like in your business, remember this: readiness is a practice. Community is a strategy, and legacy is built one intentional decision at a time. You don't have to have it all figured out today, but you do have to start, reach out, ask questions, build with people who see your vision, and remember, your next opportunity isn't just about revenue, it's about impact. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned. Thank you for listening to the WEBB Remedy Podcast, a mindset shifting project of WEBB Squared. Wealth Through Entrepreneurship for Black and Brown Businesses is a North Carolina nonprofit located in Chatham County. We offer incubator, accelerator business services to Black, BIPOC, and rural entrepreneurs. Our podcast producer and editor is Rinnie, the executive director of WEBB Squared. Our music is by Deja Bell and Maddie McGaskill. Our podcast studio is located at the 79 West Innovation Hub in Pittsboro, North Carolina. We realize that building an ecosystem of support is critical to achieving our mission. Your donation supports WEBB Squared's coaching services, the promotion of the businesses and entrepreneurs we serve, and of course the podcast. To learn more, please visit our website at websquared.org.